If you want to plan a retreat that sells out and makes you money, well, this is the right place, because this is part 2 of how to plan a retreat for your business. We're going to walk step by step. I've planned so many different retreats and experiences, events, even large conferences before. And so I'm going to break this down and really help you make sure that you don't fall flat on your face when you're planning a retreat and you get the best results possible. So this is part 2. If you haven't watched part 1, go check it out. What we're going to cover today is we are going to dive into a little bit of the planning. We talked about goals. Now we're going to go into planning. Remember, I haven't really taken a step yet into talking about all the small things, because honestly, these steps ahead of time are going to make or break your retreat experience. So let's talk about a little bit of the planning. So you've already got your goals for your retreat, and you've already started to identify some people in your circle that maybe could be a partner or maybe be able to help you out with this retreat. Now what we want to do is, before we even talk about how the logistics of this retreat are going to be and how to make it spectacular and all this other stuff, we want to figure out, do we have something viable? Do we actually have something that we can take from idea and concept and bring it into real life? And these are critical missteps that are missed all the time by entrepreneurs that are trying to plan their own events, and they miss these key steps. So in this planning part, you want to actually write down the people that are going to be going to this retreat experience. Write down their names. Yes. Are all these people going to be going? Probably not. But a good handful of them, yes, because you already know them. They already know, like, and trust you. So they're going to be able to, they're more willing to be able to buy a retreat experience like this. So you're going to write down as many individuals that would actually attend your retreat experience. You're going to make that list as long as possible, right? This is your initial outreach message that you're going to be able to send out to people once you have this retreat going. And also, that's going to be able to give you confidence when you actually put all these resources, your time, your energy, your effort into this retreat. Now confident because you now have a targeted list of people. And if it's, let's say if it's a 10 or 15 person retreat, you have a list of 40. You're a little bit more confident to be able to do this. A lot of people plan the whole retreat and then they didn't even think about who they're marketing out to or what they have. So then when they get the whole retreat plan, they get the venue booked and the website up and prices and all this other stuff. And then they're like, oh yeah, I got to start messaging people. I got to start letting people know. Also, if you already have a list, or like, no matter what, you need to write out this list. This list is going to save you. Because when you're trying to figure out who to contact, who to go to next, like, this is the list that you need to contact. But even if you already have an email list, if you have past customers, if you have already thrown some smaller events before and you can take from those lists, if you have connections or partnerships with anybody, you want to start to see where the pools of contacts that you can pull from, so that way you can get your audience already pre-selected. Because with the retreats, the cool thing is that it's a very curated experience for a small, finite amount of individuals. You can do a retreat with 5 people. You really could. And so that is what really helps you in guiding you to actually pulling off a successful retreat. So write down those names. Second, you really want to take those names and then say, what would be the maximum amount of value that you could provide for these individuals that they could not say no to your retreat? You want them to be able to say, oh my God, I'm going to that. I'm going. So what is some huge value that you can add to it? So for instance, in New York, we're in New York. We're in Times Square. I planned the entire retreat around the idea of personal branding. And I was like, okay, I want to create this amazing personal brand experience. A lot of people, it's been their first time in New York. So I want to have that New York feeling, right? We're going to different places. We're not just stuck in a stuffy hotel. We're moving around and having a full experience. And then once I got all the planning done, I had a studio partnership that I had with Podstream Studios. We had a place to go for a workshop. We had a secondary location for a workshop. We had some experiential things, but I'm like, man, what could take this thing to the next level. And I'm like, a billboard in Times Square could take this thing to the next level. I'm like, it's such an easy sell. Hey, come out to the retreat. You're going to get featured on a billboard in Times Square. I'm like, okay, so now how do I make that happen? Who's in my contacts? Who's in my connections that I already have? What partnerships do I already have that I can tap in and leverage? So I started to go down that path, and we were able to land on a great partnership with a company that does digital billboards all across the country. And one spot is, of course, in Times Square, New York. So I was able to figure out something there of a partnership in a way to be able to get these entrepreneurs featured on a billboard in Times Square. Now that's like the ultimate value add, because I looked at my list of people and I'm like, what could get them to where they can't say no to this thing? Like, what retreat have you gone to that people are featured on a billboard in Times Square? Like, come on. Like, it's just such a great thing. And now we're going to be doing that every single year. It was so good. We're doing that every single year. So think about, what is your huge value add that you can have that your group of potential prospects, what do they want? What could get them to basically where they can't say no? It's irresistible. So plan out your group and write down all those contacts. Where are all the contact pools? So that the different types of contacts that you can go ahead and leverage and be able to activate. Second of all, how do you add tremendous amount of value? How do you add so much value where they can't say no? And then the third thing is, this is just so crucial. What are they willing to pay for this experience? Once again, I haven't gone into all the logistics. Price of how you charge for a retreat really does matter with how much expenses and things that you have going into it. But first, start with, what are they willing to pay? And don't shortchange yourself too. So I think what I'll do is step 3, we'll go deeper into the pricing of retreats, but I'll tell you this, your retreat experience, don't shortchange yourself. You are providing an incredible experience for people. Think about how much people pay for just a cruise ship, for 2 people to go on a cruise ship, and then have that full-time experience. And if they want to have it all inclusive and not think about anything, like, they're paying thousands of dollars for that whole experience, to travel and go to a place and have those experience, all the extra excursions and all those things, like so many different add-ons. If you add all that up, they're paying thousands. So for your retreat experience, if it's a couple days, don't shortchange yourself, but also you need to be realistic. If this is your first retreat and you don't have really a customer, like, honestly, even if you have a customer base, if you've been doing this for a while as a business owner, I still wouldn't out the gate unless you literally have a gigantic audience, or you already know that your audience is already paying tens of thousands of dollars for a retreat. I wouldn't out the gate charge $20K, $30K for your retreat experience. I just wouldn't. I would first think, okay, what is my group comfortable with paying? And then bump it up just a slight notch. So if they're comfortable paying, like, okay, maybe they'll pay $750 for a retreat experience like this. Okay, remember, we talked about that extra value add. What is something that get them where it's irresistible to say no? Now we can maybe bump that up to $1,500. Maybe it's $2,000, because we're increasing the value of the retreat experience and making it so undeniable. So now you need to kind of go through and say, okay, what are my services? What do they normally cost? And then from this retreat experience, with that extra value add, what are they willing to pay? And just be realistic, and just know too that this is so critical, because you don't want to get in a spot where if you're charging $7,500, let's just say, or $10,000 for your first retreat experience, and then you're trying to go back and you're doing all this time selling, and you're not getting people to say yes. And we'll talk about how to convert people in a future video, but you can spend a lot of time with the wrong offer. So you want to make sure that your offer, and you don't want to go too low, because you want to actually make sure that people value what you're doing. So you can't just have a retreat experience for $200. Like, multi-day retreat experience for $200 is crazy. It's crazy. So you don't want to go too low, but you want to find that sweet spot. So what is your people willing to pay right now? And how can you get them to be able to, like, where it's irresistible? So those are the 3 things that I would do in the planning phase. Once again, we haven't talked about location. We haven't talked about any of that stuff yet, because you want to figure out, is this thing viable? do I actually have something that I can execute and really be able to pull off? If it's your first one, there's gonna be a lot of bumps in the road, and we're gonna make that a lot simpler and easier for you by watching these videos. But you wanna make sure that you're not gonna go in the hole for this event. And so by starting with the end in mind, you're gonna be able to make sure that you pull this retreat off. You're super happy and excited even after you've done it. And people are gonna be just wanting more of that experience, that connection, and you're gonna elevate your brand and your business. So take these plannings. We're gonna talk about in the next video of pricing and get into some of the logistics for the retreat. So I think we'll probably do a whole video on pricing. I think that's the way to go, is do the whole video just on pricing. How do you price this thing out? How do we go a little deeper? I'll show you some examples. And you are now one step closer to planning your retreat. So please like, comment, subscribe to our channel. And my name is Jamar Jones, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.